What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Nutrition Talks with Tyson the Trainer. Me, obviously. Now, today I want to talk to you guys not about nutrition though. I want to talk to you about cardio. So I'm just mucking around with my little camera that I've got going on for the YouTube so that people don't see the microphone in here. That's better. So yeah, today I want to talk to you guys about cardio because I'm assuming you know, if you follow me on Instagram and stuff like that, I'm pretty big on the whole cardio side of things. I used to be one of those dickheads who literally thought gym was the only thing. Like, I thought cardio was the dumbest thing. And I thought, like, you know, oh, nah, lift in the gym. Fuck, that's all you need, you know, all these other people doing any other sport. I literally thought any other sport apart from lifting weights, I was like, what a waste of time, you know. Just young, stupid things, which is so funny. However, thankfully, I've, come around to the idea of cardio and realizing how important it is and how it's more beneficial than anything, you know? So I thought today I'd just try and help cover some things that you guys may or may not have heard of, you know, some myths, just get an idea about what cardio is, all those type of things, right? So let's dive into it, shall we? Now, firstly, when I say, when I say cardio, we say aerobic, aerobic exercise, endurance exercise, cardiovascular exercise, all those things, they're all basically the same thing, you know, and all we're trying to do when we say these words, cardio, endurance exercise, all that stuff, all we're trying to do is get your heart to be beating faster. We're trying to increase your overall heart rate and get the blood flowing, and then that way, the goal is to improve cardiorespiratory fitness, okay? So the goal basically is to be able to improve our overall heart health. That's what the goal of cardiovascular exercise is. Not only just increasing heart health, but also increasing endurance capacity in the muscles too. So muscles can last longer. That's actually the benefit of cardio. And that's what the adaptation should be. The goal of the adaptation should be. It's not to burn calories, okay? Burning calories from cardio is a benefit that you get, but it's not the main component, all right? The reason people do cardio is to get better at cardio. All right. Now, for the sake of what you're listening to this for, it's not just to get better with cardio, it's to improve your overall health, you know? Funnily enough, I don't know if people understand this, but people who are endurance athletes are some of the healthiest people on earth, all right? And in saying that, they are when I say healthiest, as in like they do not have metabolic disease, all right? Or basically any disease that can be preventable through lifestyle. Not only that, they actually consume a lot of calories compared to a normal person, and a lot of those calories come from sugary, high-calorie stuff that we're demonizing all the time. Yet again, these people are still in a healthy range. They actually have a higher chance of living longer because their VO2 max is also higher, which is basically how much oxygen you can take in per milliliter of body weight. Sorry, is that wrong? VO2 max is, milliliters per minute that you can take in. And so with that, you've got to take it into consideration, you know, we're like, oh, you know, fucking, got to be healthy, got to be doing this, got to be doing that. It's like, well, hang on. These endurance athletes are consuming thousands of calories. They're eating carbohydrates, they're eating quote unquote sugar, and they're still healthy. So, pardon me, the health benefits of cardio are actually massive. They help you better with nutrient partitioning. They improve your heart's efficiency. So when I say your heart efficiency, is that when you get fitter, sorry, I have this little scratch in my throat. Pardon me. When you get fitter and you improve your cardiovascular endurance, what happens is that your heart becomes more efficient. And did I say that? Anyways, your heart becomes more efficient. And what that means is this is why your heart rate goes down, okay? Your resting heart rate goes down because it can pump less times and move more blood through the body, which is a good thing. A lower resting heart rate, lower beat per minute is good for you, okay? Not only that, is when you increase your overall endurance capacity, you're able to keep your heart rate lower at an intensity that you may not have been able to before, which is making the heart more efficient, which is making so your muscles more efficient because they can carry oxygen around the body, more oxygen around the body. So all these things are making you overall healthier, okay? Which is a good thing. Like, you know, lower heart rate, fantastic. Being able to increase your intensity and go, you know, for the same distance at a faster rate or a longer distance at the same heart rate because you are fitter overall. These are great things that we get a benefit from. And not only that, the other health benefits you get from doing cardio, again, we're not talking about burning calories here or weight loss, okay? Like heart health, prevention of diseases that could be, what was the word I said before? Now I can't think of the word. Basically, preventable diseases. You have a high chance of not getting these diseases because they are preventable, They're lifestyle related diseases that you actually aren't going to get. So it's like, type 2 diabetes. What else would I say? Reduces your overall blood sugar overall. So that actually will reduce your type 2 diabetes. Improving your, lowering your blood pressure. So anyone who has higher blood pressure or any of those type of things, that will reduce your blood pressure. It will obviously, weight is going to be a thing too that's going to come down most likely if you're increasing that. It improves your immune function. It handles nutrient partitioning. There's just like on and on the amount of benefits that cardio can give you. And it's funny because everyone harps on about weight training. Yeah, you got to get your muscle, you got to do this. And it's like, yeah, okay, look, weight training does a fair bit. But if you want to be able to live longer, it's actually a higher correlation with your VO2 max, which is more related to your cardiovascular fitness than your weight training fitness. Now, when saying that, weight training still is important. I hate to be like, oh, if you could only pick one, if you could only do this. Like, ideally for me, I would tell people lift 3 times a week, and then the rest of your stuff should come from cardiovascular exercise. If you're time bound, if you're not time bound, do whatever you want. For me, I do 5 days of weights, and 5 days of cardio basically because I have the time for it, but not everyone has that time. However, the benefits of cardio are just fucking amazing. And not only that, again, burning calories isn't the main thing, but you also increase your calorie expenditure. Now, the funny thing about increasing calorie expenditure people need to realize is you don't burn that many extra calories than you think you would. All right, so just as an example, when I do 45 minutes on the assault bike and I keep my heart rate at about 150, I burn 600 calories, okay, in 45 minutes. You may be like, oh, wow, yeah, that's a lot. Well, hang on. I've got to keep my heart rate at 150 beats per minute, which is higher than a zone 2. I'll talk to you about that later. My weight is also 95 kilos, so I'm quite a heavy person, which means I'm going to be, mass moves. It takes more energy to move more mass. So the heavier you are, the more calories per minute you will burn based on your weight. Same thing as just like normally. But also in saying that, like with my heart rate being higher, I'll burn more calories. So it's good to a degree, but also it's not as much as you think. In general, like I will touch on this soon, but just a quick generalization. Half an hour of cardio every time you do a session, keeping your heart rate between zone 2, so it's about I think it's 70 to 85% of your is it 70 to 85%? I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, sorry, 70 to 80% of your heart rate max is where you want to be. So when you do that, you do half an hour, you'll be like, oh, I've only burnt like 250, 300 calories. Yeah, it's not a huge amount. And this is exactly why I'm saying it's not just to burn calories, okay? It's for your overall health, and that's an important thing. Because I assume you guys want to live disease-free, ideally. If you can, you want to live disease-free. You also want to make sure that you're going to be healthy as you get older, and you can still do things. And that's why cardiovascular health is important, right? Now, in saying that, I said to you guys before, like we say cardio, we say endurance work, we say aerobic stuff. Basically, you've probably heard of aerobic and anaerobic, right? So basically means anaerobic means without oxygen and aerobic means with oxygen. So aerobic is what we're going to be mainly focusing on here, which is quote unquote endurance training. Anything that's going to be greater than 15 minutes of continuous exercise is what we're going to be classing on here, is what I want to talk to you guys about today. Because these are where the cardiovascular benefits start to add up over time, all right? If you're doing like 5 minutes here and there, you can do that to start off with, but ideally you want to get continuous minutes in, and it's going to be more than 15 minutes at a time. Which is kind of a good thing though, because for those of you that have never done cardio before or don't really do it, you can slowly work your way up to that side of things, and you start at that 15-minute mark, and then you just kind of build yourself into it, right? So with cardio, you may have heard of heart rate zones before. You've probably heard of fat burning zone before. Basically, there's zones 1 through to 5, okay? Zone 1 is kind of a warm-up, you would say. Zone 1 is basically, if I was just walking on an inclined treadmill, or even just going for a walk, and my heart rate was getting to like the 100-ish mark, between the 95 and 100 and like, let's say 15-ish, That's going to be like just zone 1. You don't really can take into consideration zone 1. It's just getting the body to increase into the next zones, okay? Zone 2 is where you're going to want to spend a lot of your time. Zone 2 is basically between 70 to 80% of your heart rate max. It is also going to be less low fatigue and high volume. So when I say high volume, you can do this for long periods of time. Like zone 2 is where you can literally sit there for, up to, let's say, 2.5, 3 hours, basically, of just continuous zone 2 work, because it's low intensity, all right? It's very easy for you to maintain that. It's very cruisy, and this is where I'm going to talk to you guys about focusing on later. Zone 3 is when we start to cross that little threshold from basically using purely fat as a fuel source and using more carb and fat as a fuel source, okay? Remember, fat as a fuel source is not burning body fat, all right? That's what I need to, it's just, it takes less energy. Sorry, I should say, if you're using fat as a fuel source, I will explain this now. If you're using fat as a fuel source, lower intensity, that's because it takes more time to regenerate fat as a fuel source, okay? The higher the intensity goes, the more you have to use carbohydrates, because the faster they can be put back into the working muscle, right? Or so I should say, the faster they can be used as immediate energy. Fats take longer, carbohydrates go faster, which is why when you go more intense, you're burning more carbohydrates. But remember, even though if you're burning more carbohydrates, if you're creating a calorie deficit regardless, it doesn't matter whether your cardio comes from quote unquote fat burning or carb burning, I should say. So zone 3, you're going to be using a little bit more intensity. I think I'm pretty sure zone 3 is like, let me pull it up here. So zone 3 is 80 to 90%, all right? Sorry, that should be, 80 to 90%. And then zone 4 and zone 5, so it's kind of mixed. Like sometimes people say there is no zone 4. Obviously there is zone 4. Basically zone 4 and above, we're going to be looking at 90% to 100% of our heart rate max. Now, if you want to know your heart rate max, you get 220 and you minus your age, okay? So for me, 220 minus 28, my heart rate max is 192, okay? For you, whatever it is, that's your heart rate max. Then you can do the percentages off there. So again, you want to know your zone 2 work, 70% up to 80% of your heart rate max. That's what you're going to be aiming for your heart rate. So for me, my heart rate there is, I think, 145 to 153, if I can remember correctly off the top of my head. That's where the zone I want to hang out in. That's where I want you to focus on your efforts, right? Just because, again, this is low intensity, easy to do, adds up as being beneficial, and it's just, again, it's very easy for people to do. The higher the intensity, the more effort you have to give. Not only do you have to give more intensity, unfortunately, the more intensity you give to cardio, then it will start to bleed over into other things and help you recover. It will stop you from recovering as well, which is something we don't want to be doing either. We want to make sure we're recovering well, okay? So if you can do that real quick, if you want 220 minus your age, okay? In your calculator, write in that number. So again, for me, 220 minus 28 is 192. And then I put times, the times in your calculator, 0.7 or times 0.8, all right? That's if you don't know how to do the old times tables. It's very simple to do that. So instead of trying to figure out 80%, you just put 0.8 and times it by that number, and it'll tell you what that answer is. So once you've got that, that's kind of the heart rate zone you want to be looking at, right? Now, you can do it other ways. If you aren't going to be able to track your heart rate, there's other ways we can do it. But for those of you that have a heart rate tracker, whether it be a wristwatch, Garmin, an Apple, unless you've got a heart rate strap like me, any of those things, you can use that. However, if you don't, zone 2 is basically going to be the talk test. So the talk test is when you're doing an exercise, I'm going to be talking, but then I'm going to have a break, like have a quick breath between my sentences. Not like, but if I'm talking like this, and then I have to keep talking, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and then I'm going to keep going like this, and then so it's like you can say a sentence, but then the sentence might need a bit of a breath between hand. That's the talk test. That's how you know how hard it is. Ideally, it should feel like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, and that should be it. Again, we're looking just to make sure we're adding this in. It's not going to be intense. It's going to be easy to add in. And doing the zone 2 work, you're going to be like, this feels too easy. That's where you want to be. That's exactly where I want you to be. because that means it's sustainable. You're getting the heart rate benefits, right? All zones have benefits, okay? But again, if you're just trying to get like kind of the biggest bang for your buck, zone 2 is where we want to go for the most part. That's where a lot of the information has been coming out lately about zone 2. For those of you that are athletes, for those of you that do, you are training more on the endurance side of things, we want to be training different times and different heart zones for different we want to be spending different amounts of times in different heart rate zones, and we want to be using all of our heart rate zones. For those of you who are just trying to add this in for overall health and also to complement your workouts and side of things, just to get some good fitness in there, then zone 2 work is where you want to be aiming towards, okay? For an example of how I do it for myself, my boxing days are higher zone work because I'm just fucking hitting pads, right? Which means I'm getting between zone 4 and zone 5. I'm getting it really into that red zone. On the other days, I'm sitting at zone 2. I've got that balance there mostly. It's very easy to be able to add in and to be able to keep that consistent. It's not fatiguing me, and that's what we want to be doing here, right? Now, regards to adding cardio in, you can add this in however you want. Because we're going to be starting with a goal of 15 minutes, think about any time of the week you can add in 15 minutes. It may be before you work out. It may be after you work out. All right. Now, before you start freaking out about, oh, fuck, is this going to impact my training? Remember, zone 2 work should be a 5 out of 10. It should not negatively impact your training at all. It's low impact, okay? It's low intensity. It's easy to do. It's easy to sustain. And doing 20 minutes, you should get off and be like, I could have gone for another 20 to 40 minutes easily, okay? That's where we want to be. And so this is why it shouldn't affect your training, right? I used to be one of those people, don't do cardio before training, don't do cardio after training, you shouldn't be doing this, it's going to affect your gains. It's not. Unless you're doing a very hard session beforehand, it's not going to affect your training, okay? If anything, it will, it will benefit your training because when you are increasing your overall aerobic capacity and your muscle endurance and being able to deliver oxygen around the blood. Sorry, I'm having a bit of mind blank today. When you're able to do that, guess what that means? You're also going to be able to recover quicker, okay? When you're able to recover quicker between sets, you're then not going to be resting for 4 to 5 minutes and feeling gassed. You're going to be able to get into the next set. Doesn't mean you're trying to turn your workouts into a cardio session. It just means after 90 to 120 seconds, you should be feeling pretty fresh to go again versus being taxed, out of breath type of thing. That's where you want to be overall, okay? So doing this before or after your workout is completely fine, 15, 20 minutes. If you're going to be doing longer than 20 minutes, I wouldn't do it pre-workout. I would do it after your workout or again, on another day. It's just realistically, how can you add this in, right? Now, when we think about what type of cardio can you be doing? Like, do you this equipment, do you do this? It's whatever you can tolerate, all right? I have an assault bike at my house because it's the one piece of equipment. Funnily enough, it was cheaper than most stationary bikes, which actually blew me away. I was looking at some of the stationary bikes and like fucking $1,500. I was like, holy shit, there is no way I'm getting this. So I chose the assault bike because, again, like it was cheaper than most of the stuff I was looking at. It's probably the exercise I enjoy doing the most, me personally. Thirdly, it's something I can put on my balcony, so it's actually less resistance to do that versus going to the gym. So all I'm trying to do here is to put myself in a position where if I want to do cardio, it's right there to do it, and there's less resistance and less effort, okay? So for you, it's the same thing. It's like maybe you actually do cardio before or after a workout because you don't want to drive to the gym on a day where you don't have to go to the gym just to sit on a piece of stationary equipment, right? Maybe you buy a piece of stationary equipment at home that you enjoy using. There's plenty to choose from, I doubt anyone's going to buy a fucking expensive Stairmaster, but you might buy a cross trainer, you might buy a stationary bike, you might buy an assault bike, you might buy a rower. Like, I don't care, whatever you're going to buy. Just pick a cardio piece of equipment that you can tolerate, whether it's in the gym or not in the gym, okay? Outside of that, also, pick a sport that you enjoy. I've got clients that do netball, I've got clients that do soccer, I've got clients that do basketball. Find a sport you can do, because guess what? Doing sport is cardiovascular exercise, all right? Now, if you're doing sport, please do not get stuck in your heart rate zones and be like, oh, fuck, am I doing this much heart rate? Am I doing this? Is this going to impede my recovery? Who gives a shit? You're running around for 20 to 40 to 60 minutes, okay? Sometimes the heart rate's gonna be lower, sometimes it'll be higher. At least you're moving consistently for over 20 minutes at a time. You're gonna be building your cardiovascular system up. So if you are doing sport, don't get so stuck in it and just do the sport, because a great way to increase your overall cardiovascular exercise while getting some fun in, while also socializing, like that makes it way easier for you to stick to. And if I say to a client, you know what? You should quit that sport because I think you should be doing cardio on a stationary piece of equipment. It's a fucking dumb thing to do. And if a client asks me, hey, what should I do? Should I go and join this sport or should I go and do this cardio equipment? I'm gonna tell them to go and join the sport because there's community there. It's fun. They're more likely to do it and they're paying money for this, to participate in the sport, and they're gonna show up for it. So we wanna look at these things too to make it more enjoyable so it's easier to stick to, okay? Again, so many sports out there or different things, even like fucking ultimate frisbee will get that heart rate up. So find something cardiovascular wise, whether it's in the gym or out of the gym, that you can continuously do, okay? So then, like I said, if it's gonna be in the gym, pick it and be able to do 20 plus minutes. Start with, aim for 15 to 20. Then once you got that in routine, you can build up. How much can you do? Well, because it's zone 2 work, it's basically how much time you have, right? Which is why I do it every day. I sit on there, I listen to a podcast, or I watch Netflix on my assault bike, right? You can do the same thing. If you're in a piece of equipment at the gym, they're gonna probably have YouTube on there or Netflix on there for the most part, on most of the equipment you have, which is actually pretty fucking good. So use them to your advantage. If you want time to go quicker, watch something or listen to something to make it easier. I'm always hit and miss when I watch certain things. I'm always like, I like to listen more, and then I can just fuck around on my phone a little bit too and look at my heart rate. If I'm watching stuff, I kind of get distracted or I start to get bored or I'm trying to hurry things up. So I wish I could watch stuff more. It'd make life easier, but yeah, that's just me. For you, you might watch something. There's a lady that I see at the gym. She sits on the recumbent bike. So for those of you that don't know what the recumbent bike is, it's kind of like you're sitting on a recliner and your feet are out in front of you. She sits on that and she reads a book. And I'm like, fuck, man. I wish I could read a book when I'm doing cardio. It would make life a lot easier, but my head moving, it would make me sick more than anything. But that's how she does hers. That's how she makes time go faster. Yeah, you're sucked in a novel. So there's plenty of different ways for you to make it more enjoyable for yourself. But one of the ways is to pick, if you pick a piece of equipment, when you're doing it, do something that will take your mind off it, okay? Another way that you can add cardio in to make it a little bit easier is by changing the modalities of cardio. So I guess this is where the benefit of being in the gym comes in handy, because you can pick and choose different types of cardio activities you want to do, maybe based on the day, how you feel, or you just want to change them all up on the day. So for example, you can come in today and be like, I don't want to do the roller today, I want to do the cross trainer. Okay, cool, do that, whatever. You could do that. Or what you could do is be like, you know what, I want to do 30 minutes today. I'm going to do 10 minutes on the cross trainer, 10 minutes on the rower, and then 10 minutes of sled pushing. There you go. That's a simple way. Or I'm going to do the ski erg for 60 seconds on, 60 seconds off 5 times. Then I'm going to get on the rower and I'm going to go for as far as I can in 5 minutes. Then I'm going to go on the cross trainer and do 15 minutes at a lower intensity pace. Cool. Like, you can mix and match whatever the fuck you want to do. The only thing you've got to remember is, one, not making it so hard you're going to ruin yourself, okay? And secondly, that you're going to just keep going for at least 15 minutes or longer, right? What I don't want you to do is try and go balls to the wall, trying to push yourself, trying to quote unquote burn all these calories, and then you end up burning yourself out, all right? We don't want to be doing that. Again, cardio should be easy. When I say easy, it should be tolerable, because not everyone's obviously going to enjoy it, but it should be easy to do and have a low fatigue effort. All right, if you're too fatigued, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling gas, if it's fucking ruining you, then you're just doing too much, okay? So you've probably heard of LIST before, low intensity steady state cardio. This is what endurance stuff is, all right? So remember, the talk test can be done, or 70 to 80% of your heart rate max. Basically, should feel like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. You want to be able to do this for at least 15 minutes, ideally longer, based on how much time you have, how many days you can do it. There's no, what's the word I'm trying to think of? There's no upper limit to zone 2 cardio, okay? You can literally do it every day if you wanted to, if you have the time. The most important thing is consistency. Can you do it week after week? That's the most important thing. Because you could feel like, yeah, well, I'm going to start running 20Ks. Okay, sweet. You're going to be able to run 20Ks for week after week? I doubt it. you know, unless this is like, you know, unless you're an endurance runner, sweet, go and do that. But like 20Ks adds a lot on the body, you know, what's that, 2 hours of running, let's say, that's hectic. So that's just what you want to think about. Okay. Now, what about high intensity training? You've heard about, you know, HIIT intervals and all that stuff. Look, I'm not a big fan of that in regards to a few different things. All right. Number one, it is not superior in regards to low intensity cardio. There used to be this whole thing where it's like, don't do the, you know, this is even me saying this, don't do low intensity because you look like this. And it was like a marathon runner, you know, they're skinny, they're slim. Do the high intensity cardio because you look like this. And it's like some fucking sprinter. Dumbest comparison, honestly. That's the mentality I had, right? Fuck's sake. High intensity training for me, I just feel like the benefits of that is not worth it for a majority of people, okay? Again, unless you are an endurance athlete or you are I guess you would say an athlete overall, all right? And you're needing different intensities, that's when it matters. Like for me, I'm getting that quote unquote high intensity work. I don't know why I'm saying quote unquote. I'm getting that high intensity work from when I do boxing. That's when I know it's more intense. The heart rate's higher. The issue with higher intensity training is that it impedes your recovery, which means, you know, when you go to the gym, if it's making you weaker, that's a bad thing. If you're weaker than last week or you can't do as much because you're fatiguing yourself too much. That's not what we want. We're trying to get the benefits from cardio without it impeding on our overall training, right? Which is why it should feel quite easy. Number two, it requires a very, very high effort in order to do high intensity training. And if you want to do high intensity training, you're trying to get your heart rate in zone 5 for at least 20 minutes a week, okay? It is very hard to get your heart rate in zone 5 for 20 plus minutes a week. It may not seem like much, 20 minutes, but when you're tracking your heart rate properly and you realize you have to get to 90% plus of your heart rate, so for me, it's over 175 beats a minute, it's very, very fucking hard to sustain. Let me tell you that right now. So trying to do all that extra effort that's then going to possibly impact your recovery overall, it may negatively impact your training. It's very hard to do. It requires way more effort. Then it's like, what's the fucking point in it? For overall, you know, trying to improve your health, that type of thing. And if you're like, oh, but I've heard HIIT burns more calories. It does not burn more calories, okay? I'm telling you right now, it fucking doesn't. All these things that you've probably heard about, these myths, are bullshit. They're called myths for a reason, right? So don't stress so much about high intensity stuff. It's not going to burn any more calories. And if you're like, oh, well, my coach told me to do 2 high intensity sessions a week to burn fat, and you're like finding it very hard, it's not enjoyable, all these things, it's like, are you really going to burn anything extra? If it's fucking hard and you don't want to do it, you might skip workouts. Whereas like you could do literally, so like, oh, do 2 20-minute sessions a week of HIIT, okay? Or you do 2 lower intensity sessions at 30 minutes, you burn more calories doing the lower intensity training, and you're actually recovering better. You know? There's just a bad mentality there around cardio. So for the most part, I'm not a big fan on HIIT training, the higher intensity stuff. Lower intensity stuff is the way to go. Again, you're playing a sport, you're not going to be able to control that. Don't get stuck in the weeds. Just fucking just do the sport. It's fun. Okay? In saying that again, cardio is not there just to burn calories. Yes, you will burn extra calories, but you're not trying to get the outcome of that. You're there to improve your overall health, and you're there to improve your overall, like, you know, your heart health, endurance capacity, all those things. That's just going to come from keeping it consistent. All right. Don't get so stuck on these numbers. Okay. What else was I going to say about that? Start small, build up, make it sustainable, adding it in. Oh, I guess going back to the impacting your gains, right? So pre or post workout, doesn't matter when you do it. You can do it on other days, whatever you want to do, as long as you are not, doing the intensity so hard that it's actually going to negatively impact you. Apart from that, one other thing you want to consider is that the other reason that it can impact people's training is because it now creates an energy gap, all right? So if you're in a diet and then you add in cardio and you do add in 40 minutes of cardio, let's say, and now it's creating an extra 300 calories a day. So now instead of you being in a 500 calorie deficit, you're in a 700 calorie deficit. No, that's wrong. It'd be even more. It's an 800 calorie deficit. That's going to be quite impacting to your overall training, and you're going to feel overall fatigued and lethargic. So you do need to take these things into consideration. And what I would actually say is, look, if you're going to add it in when you're dieting, just make sure you're not excessively now increasing your rate of weight loss each week, because if it's going too quickly, it will negatively impact you. And because you're creating more of an energy gap, you are now going to be at a higher percentage of weight loss, which could then also increase a potential of loss of muscle. That's where the issue comes from. If instead, let's say you just started adding cardio in and you're at maintenance and you know what your maintenance calories are, then when you go into a deficit and you're keeping cardio in, the calorie gap's not going to be as big. You're not going to be losing weight too fast. You're going to be able to maintain your muscle mass, and it's going to have no negative effects on your weight training. If anything, it's going to have positive effects on your weight training because, like I said, delivering more oxygen to the muscles, being able to recover quicker, which means your heart rate will drop quicker between sets, being able to get back into it. That's what we want to be going for, all right? And that's basically, it's quite simple for this episode, guys. Like, I don't want to go too far into it because you don't need to know a lot. Like, we sum this up again. So it's like, aim for 70 to 80% of your heart rate max. Aim to do at least 15 to 20 minutes when you do it. Try and increase it to as many times as you can in a week and keep it consistent. Pick some type of cardio that you're quote unquote tolerable or you're going to able to enjoy. Could be a sport, could be a piece of equipment, whatever the fuck you want to do. All right. Do make sure that you're keeping the intensity relatively low, and then that way you just make sure you keep showing up and you add it into your overall fitness regime, and you're going to be healthier and fitter for it. Cool. Well, I hope this is informative. I apologize for the rambling today. The mouth didn't want to work with the brain as much, but we got there. If you guys did enjoy this, I would really appreciate if you shared and tagged me in it. And if you are going to add some cardio in, tag me and tell me what cardio you're going to add in. Until next time, my friends, I will speak to you then.